right, Cynthia, you ready?
Sure. Should we put a little tiny bit of lipstick on you? I'll go get it.
You better bring a mirror, Cynthia.
Who's nervous?
I can see you.
You can see me?
Uh-huh. Okay, let me tell you. I see a red light here, but I see no red light in the other one. Does it make any?
The other way.
It turns off, and I think I got it. Let me make sure.
I'm here. I'm just getting the wrinkles up. Over there too.
Those are more difficult.
Is that the camera's good? Does it feel weird? Does this all feel awkward?
I'm fine.
Oh, you're fine. I'm not gonna show anyone anything that'll make us look silly or, well, maybe.
What are we gonna talk about?
What do you want to know that you're doing this?
Mm.
Do you want to know how I like my family? Or do you like to know how I was living here? How it was when I was young? Or what?
Yeah, I want to know it all. I think it's cool to capture your voice and capture you talking and some of the stories that you have. And you turning 100 this year was like a big...
It is a big one.
It was a big one. How did it feel to turn 100?
Okay, I had a good life, but I don't like being 100 because I have no friends left who I can talk about the old times because there's nobody left. And my youngest sister, she is mentally not aware of what's going on. So I can't ask anybody, do you remember when we were 20 and we did whatever, Nobody to talk to. So that's a bad part. The rest of it is fine. I love my family. I think the children that I have, the ones that I have from Frank, are great. And they get along so well. Beautiful. Beautiful.
So what about people living here in Merrill Gardens? You didn't share the same things, but you have, like Irene, she can remember a certain time.
Except the difference between Irene and I are 11 years difference.
Oh, yeah.
And she lived here when she was young, and I lived in LA. So there's not much in common for that. We can talk about the old times in the world,
In general,
but nothing in particular. I have, I would say, about 12 friends here that I like, that I get together, and those are fine. And that's all I need. I never had a lot of friends. I just had, people I liked. That's
12 friends is a lot of friends.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's fine. You had breakfast this morning, and you met two of them. And Irene is very nice. She recognized your voice last night up in the roof. So she said, I heard that voice, and I said, that must be Cynthia. And lo and behold, there she is.
I think it's nice, although it must be tough that you don't have those people to reminisce with. But what I think is great about having you in so many of our lives is that we can look to you and ask you those things. What was it like back then? And you can pass those stories on to us.
Well, you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, throw the questions, please.
Well, so yeah, we touched on you turning 100, but if we go back to the beginning, you're from Quito, Ecuador, right?
Yes, but I think most of you know that.
We know that. We don't need to get into it.
So, I was wondering what you did do.
Yeah. No, not that. But I'm maybe just what do you when you think back to growing up in Ecuador? What do you think about most? What do you remember? Or
what do I think of living there?
What do you remember? Like,
I think, I can't tell you ages, for one thing, because it was the equatorial line. I had no autumn, no spring, no summer, and no fall because sun came up at 6 o'clock in the morning and the sun went down 6 o'clock at night. 365 days a year. So when I studied geography or history and there was 4 times, I couldn't imagine anybody going with no electricity, with no sunlight all the time. I mean, we had it like.
But didn't you have, wasn't it a little bit different in the winter versus the summer? Didn't you have more
It was just a
rainfall?
matter of rain. It rained more in October, November, December, January, and by February it would be more sunny and less rain.
Mhm.
When I was in the 4th grade, we used to have a sewing class, and about, I would say, 2:30, it would always rain, and it would rain for about maybe half an hour. And we had a lot of eucalyptus trees around. And then it would stop raining, and then the sun would come up and dry out the trees, and you got to smell the smell of eucalyptus. And it was always a wonderful smell to me.
You remember that?
Yeah, oh yeah.
When you smell eucalyptus here today,
No,
does it remind you of it?
But there's no smell.
A little bit.
Yeah, well, that's not that young anymore. and also the magnolias. When Dad and Mother's house was being built, we were living in another house that had a whole walk where you could, with magnolia trees. And many times Mother would have magnolia trees and come to school to pick me up in a car. And I knew when I was coming from the classrooms to go and meet somebody to take me home, the mother was there because the magnolias smelled so well, so wonderful, that I could smell in the corridor, oh, Mother's here.
Well, she had blossoms in her car.
And they went to the chapel, It was nice, and the life, it was totally different than here.
I never met your parents. Is there anything you can tell me about them?
My dad thought my mother was perfect. I knew she wasn't. But, my mother was very religious. And one time, Dad wanted to go to a museum in the desert here that was for a movie star who was a cowboy. And I can't remember the name. So we went there, and we had lunch there, and I was the driver. Dad sat next to me, and Grace, my sister, Alice, my sister, and Mother were sitting in the back. So we had left the museum and we were going out, and my mother said, "Has anybody said the rosary today?" And before we could say anything, I'm driving and looking and seeing what's going on there. Great Alice says, "Mom, I don't believe in the repetition of the same prayer." Which my mother said, "What?" And my dad pulled out a rosary and it starts, "Hail Mary, full of grace." Dad doesn't know the rosary either. But his mother said it, "Boy, don't ever do that." We took him home. Both of them got out, went to park the car, and Grace and I said, "Alice, how could you say that?" I said, "Well, I don't." I said, "That's fine, but don't tell Mother that." Anyway,
Did she get?
that was Alice. So that was it. That was one thing I remember. Also, as an adult living here.
How about when you used to go in summers to
Wapello.
Wapello?
Do you know
What was that?
that the Christmas cards for this year, for the postal card. There's a mother from Wapulo. I'll show it to you.
Oh, the Christmas card that you sent?
No, on in the post,
Stamp?
the stamp is the lady from Wapulo.
Oh.
And we used to go down there every summer. And that meant bringing beds, mattresses, everything. The cat to come with us.
Why did you have to bring beds? Why?
Because there was nothing in that place.
It was a house.
It was a house that belonged to one of the companies that my father worked for. So the house was part of the water to be brought to the turbines to make electricity. So nobody lived there. So when we went, it was empty except when we went there. And we brought the cat with us. And one of the maids had a good relationship with the cat. My father had no good relationship with the cat. Like that cat, he used to touch him, and she would scratch her. So my dad used to call him Attila. Attila the Hun.
Oh.
So when we went there, until the house was built, and we came back, nobody could find the cat. Anyway, we did find the cat. It was amazing. The cat found us, really, because Jimmy and I were playing in the yard, and there was this terrible-looking cat, and it was La Negrita, and she allowed us to pick her up and bring her in the house. The maid washed her off, cleaned her, fed her, and then we went to touch again. Thanks a lot, you did what you need to, Dad, for me. Now myself.
So what was it like? You're the oldest of 7, right? What was it like being the oldest child? Did you enjoy being the oldest? Did you feel responsibility for your younger siblings and things like that?
Jimmy and I were good friends. The other ones were younger, and they were 2 years apart, all of us. And on Sundays, the natives that lived on the east side of the Andes used to come with monkeys and parrots and orchids to sell in these funny things hanging from their backs and made by themselves. And so we used to, Jimmy and I, the monies that we had, and we used to buy the orchids always. And Jimmy, sometimes nothing.
How old are you?
Oh, we must have been maybe 11 and 9 or 10, around there.
So one time
we bought a monkey, and that was great.
you brought it home.
Well, they came by my house, so we wouldn't go out to buy. They came to the house, and the monkey got away. And he went up in the roof, and there were tiles, and the monkey was throwing the tiles out.
Oh my gosh.
And I don't know how they got the monkey, but we never saw the monkey again. And we never asked what happened to the monkey either. Oh, God.
And so when you came to LA when you were 14 years old, right? Were you excited for that?
Yes, I was excited. We came into Hollywood, in Los Angeles. The movie stars are going to be all around. Wonderful. Well, that wasn't true. It didn't happen that way. But we did have 2 maids that came with us. But I had to get myself dressed. When I lived in Ecuador, I was dressed. So I was able to dress myself.
You were humbled. You had to get used to some things.
I belong to the plebeian classes now. And we also Oh, the maids used to wash the dishes, but there was a lot of stuff that we had to change.
But you didn't speak English very well.
Oh, they didn't.
You.
No.
Yeah.
And also, the maids couldn't read nor write. So that was very difficult to get them passports to come to the United States because analphabets were not welcome here. So my dad is working through the company to get them to come. And my mother is working through the president of Ecuador to get them passports. Neither one of them tells the other what they're doing. And it became such a confusion affair. Had they talked to each other, they could have got a passport to stay forever then. But because of what they did, there was only for 4 years. So the maids were with us until 1940.
Mm.
By that time, the war had started, so that made a difference as well. Well, my grandmother had come with us, and she also went back with the maids, as she wanted to be. Well, she couldn't speak a language. So they left. And then we were washing dishes, and then
Goodness.
Mother learned to cook, and then things were totally different. And I will never forget Dad coming to visit us, and Dad started washing dishes. Wow! Never in my life did I think that Dad would ever do that. But he was a good sport. He loved bullfights.
What did he do in Ecuador? What brought him down to South America?
When Dad graduated from college,
Wharton, right?
yes,
Wharton.
and then he went as an accountant to the building of the Panama Canal. Finished doing that, and it was 1917. He went back to the United States, and my grandmother was a widow, and she told my grandmother, whether this is true or not, I have my doubts, that he has been offered a job in the Philippines and he won in Ecuador, and he didn't know where to go. Well, my grandmother had to go to Ecuador, which was much closer than from Philadelphia to the Philippines. So Dad went to Ecuador, and there he met my mother.
How'd they meet?
There was the square in town, you've seen it.
Plaza, yeah.
And Dad and other 2 Americans were coming, and Mother just dropped her handkerchief.
Really?
Truly. And then my dad picked up the handkerchief, I gave it to my mother, and I guess that was an introduction. Whatever, you
I'm
know.
gonna try that. See how that goes.
One of the kids, I think, either Scarlett or George, they were talking about handkerchief, and they said, "What is it?"
Oh,
You know,
Mm.
because they only use Kleenex. So what's a handkerchief? Anyway, so
And your dad spoke Spanish?
no, but he learned, and he spoke very well with a terrible accent. He could not get that gringo accent when it came to, but grammar and vocabulary wonderful. And my uncles liked him a great deal, and they got engaged, my mother and father, and then my father had to go back to the office in New York, went back, wrote my mother that looks like he is not coming back to Ecuador, and will she come to the United States and they can get married here. My grandmother said, no. So they had a religious wedding and a civil wedding with a proxy. And the man who was the ambassador from the United States in Ecuador was representing my father. Now, proxy weddings are not valid in the United States. But it made my grandmother, feel much better. So my dad came, and my mother came with the ambassador from Ecuador to the United States and his wife in a boat or ship, and met my dad and my mother's brother who lived in New York. Picked them up on the boat, picked mother. They went to Brooklyn, got married, a civil ceremony, and that's the only one that was well worth into the United States.
Legal.
My father was so proud. He said, I've been married 3 times. And everybody said, you have? To the same woman, to the same woman.
I thought the bishop was the proxy. For some reason, I had heard that when Mama married by proxy, that the person standing up for Papa was a bishop. But you said the ambassador.
Married them. A bishop married them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, so you didn't speak English, and now you're thrown into high school, right? Did you want to go back? Were you like, what? And now you don't have as many maids? Were you like angry?
Yeah.
Did people make fun of you because you didn't speak English? Or?
No, but I was sort of look at, you come from Ecuador?
Where's that?
Well, it was not only that, but you're supposed to have monkeys and all, And it's, did you have monkeys? Oh, well, yeah, but not
one up on the roof.
And it was interesting. And English, from May when we got here, is when my ear could understand what they say. Because before I could say, but my ear was not used to it. And when I was able to understand what they said, I got it. And then I knew English the way because then I can talk and talk to people because my ears were used to it. That took about 4 months.
Mm. But you didn't have trouble making friends and things like that? And
no, wait a minute. When I went to school where there were only girls, like it was in Ecuador. I'd never been to a party or anything with the boys. Never. When we went to the movies, and the Sundays at 10 o'clock in the morning, and if a boy sat behind you, my goodness, he likes me. And that was as far as it would go. I mean, holding hands, never. Never.
Until you got married.
Well, I got married in 1950, but there was a war all that time. And I dated people, but I was never in love with anybody. I lost friends during the war. And ordinarily, I think the idea was that we would be in the United States for 2 years and learn English, and then go to Paris and be there for 2 years and learn French, and then go back well educated. But the war came up, and then I couldn't go to Europe. And that's when we stayed here forever. By that time we grew up, and then we couldn't go back. I mean, our life was here.
You always had a U.S. passport? Never an Ecuadorian?
Because my father married my mother, and by marriage my mother became an American citizen. So our passports all read American children born outside of the United States. So I never had anything but an American passport.
How did you meet Jim Jordan?
James Jordan?
Yeah.
Your grandfather?
Yeah.
Your father? I met him through a friend of mine. She had a brother who had been in the Aleutians, where your dad was with the Navy in the Aleutians, and and Wilma's brother was with the Coast Guard. So when both of them came back from the war, Wilma, through her brother, introduced me to Jimmy. And that's how we met. And he knew nobody because he came from over there. And so we dated, and that was it.
Start going on dates, go to drive-ins, things like that. What is it?
Drive-ins?
Was that? No, that's before that
Drive-in
time.
theaters? No, I think that's later.
Oh,
that
that's
was
later.
before. That was
Oh, okay.
before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of dates did you go on? What did you do? No movie theater.
We ordinarily went out dancing
Dancing.
or
Like the Ambassador Hotel or where? Or what was that?
when we went dancing, there was a place called Lindy's. There was also the Ambassador Hotel, and there was also all the other wedding. Aunt Baby's reception was.
The Ebell Theater?
Hmm?
Was the Ebell Theater a place? No, that's where I took Cotillion.
There was a family from Pomona that was friends of us. And the man, there were two children, a woman and a man. The man was sort of in love with me. And during the war, many times I worked late at night. And we would be going to the Wilshire Ebell Theater, classical music. And I would be working. And when he was come from Pomona, it was an hour's drive. He used to say, the driver, who had a leather hat, he had patties on, leather gloves, come and get me from work. God, did I got a bruising from everywhere. Look at you. What the hell do you think you are, you know?
Oh, you'd have a car sent to
I
pick
had
you
a
up,
car,
the guy
and he
on-
had a wrap to put on your legs when you went. It was elegant, very elegant.
What happened to him? You met Jimmy Jordan.
Yeah, I think, well, at times I a little confusing in there. There was also same guy. I'd gone to South America with Mother, and he followed me. And I am in my dad's office smoking a cigarette, and my dad, my mother, and this man, Fred Wallensick, were in the living room with the door in between. And Mother kept saying, well, you know, I'm going to trying to get rid of him because he could smell the smoke. And then when my mother didn't smoke, there was not supposed to be anybody there. Anyway, maybe that's why he never showed up again.
That's funny.
What's it like thinking back to LA when you first moved there versus now? Like, so much has changed, right? Does it seem so different?
From where?
In LA, I mean, you moved to LA when in
1936.
1936. And then when you recently lived there or when you go back to visit, is it crazy to see all the change?
I lived in LA from 1936 until 1950. 1950, I got married and came up here to live in Marin County. And Jimmy was working in San Francisco. And not too much, you know. LA didn't change until the war, really. That's where the changes were. But from my going back from El Valley to LA, the changes were very little. And I was going back to the house that I had come from because we were renting the house, and then we bought the house from Mother and Dad. So you came back when you were what, 3 years old?
3 or 4, I don't know. Yeah.
You were born in 65.
Thank you. 55, actually.
And this house
Erase
was
that.
This house was on what street? I'm forgetting again.
251 South Van Ness.
Van Ness, yeah. Because I hear a lot about this house. Was the vibe so what I know about
1, 2, 3, 4 bedrooms and 2.5 bathrooms.
and when you were growing up, was it similar to when they were growing up, of people coming in and out all the time and lots of,
Yeah.
was that where you learned to have that kind of welcoming, everybody's welcome
Yeah.
feeling?
And when we were living there, my mother always, at Christmas time, and whatever, used to invite the boys from Ecuador that were going to USC, and all of them, for dinner, lunch, whatever. And they always used to bring us chocolates, boxes of chocolates. So my mother there'd be $5 that we get, that she would get. And she would put one box out, and none of us liked the soft ones at the bottoms. You push the bottom down, and it
Seas candy.
came to the point that
Wanted
you
soft.
knew which ones soft, you don't touch them.
You wanted the solid chocolate. You didn't want any caramel or
Or
anything.
maybe caramels, or
Crunchy.
not some, some, but not that just, even now I don't like them.
Yeah.
So when there were no more good ones, we used to go to the box that mother would have, the 4 boxes left there. And we all knew. I came home from work one day, I can't remember, and Grace said to me, the box we were eating from mother are not there anymore. I said, what do you mean? I went to get it, and the box that we came from Seas Candy or whatever is not there anymore. I went, and it wasn't there anymore. Where is the box? So I said, Mom, whatever happened to the box that was up there? He said, well, you hadn't finished it, and I took it to the nuns at school. The box was almost empty. And the nuns got this box with almost no chocolates. I said, Mom, that box is almost empty. He said, well, you hadn't finished the other one. He said, that's because we don't like the soft ones. We're eating out of there. So she said, okay, then you go down to the Pig and Whistle, buy another box and take it to the nuns and explain to them whatever. I went to the knock at the door, and Sister Cauliflower, whatever her name was. When I opened the door with the box I can in my hand, she was laughing. And she said, I just had to tell you this. She said, we knew Mrs. Gillespie wouldn't have done this, but tell us about it. So I did tell, and I thought it was terrific. Somebody bit me here.
Something bit you?
Yeah. Which one of you brought the piojos? Anyway.
And then, so yeah, that carried on to when, you were growing up, and people always coming over, open doors, right? Lots of neighborhood kids coming in and out.
And it was something.
Grand Central Station.
Was it hard raising your kids, your 5 kids? Did they give you a lot of trouble?
A breeze.
Some easier than
Yes
others?
and no.
Yeah.
That's what gave me the color of my hair. But there was some times when I wish I killed them. And I didn't kill them because I didn't want to go to jail. And
Yeah, I think there's something nice about that, about having a big family.
yes, but when we came to the United States, we had no family.
Well, you had your own family,
Well,
but
when
none
we,
of the.
when we came, baby was a year old, and I was 14. So all our cousins, they were gone. So there were years there with no family. And then people from Ecuador came, and then we had friends. And then, of course, we made American friends and, at school and all. But it was a family, even in Ecuador, that was together. And that was hard not to have anybody.
Mm.
It was, in a way, different. But like when I came here the first time, that was very difficult to come to a place that knew nobody but Peggy.
Here.
Yeah.
Merrill
Yeah,
Gardens.
But I guess you had some training throughout your life to prepare you for something like that. You know how to be the new person, right?
I put a new mask on.
Yeah. But you quickly made friends here, right?
Yes, but I'm an introvert.
Mm.
And I never had to go someplace at breakfast time. I said, would you mind I join you? I'm Mary Smith. I just moved in here. That was the hardest thing I ever had to do. And that was nice. And the woman, Diane, that you met this morning, at breakfast time, I sat at a table with her. And I told her who I was. And she said, hello. And she was nice. She was, And then, maybe the third or fourth time that I've been there for breakfast, she said, if you want to have a good conversation at breakfast time, go and sit over there with that man. His name is, what's his name? Cliff. So the next time I said, I hear, by that time I didn't care anymore. I heard that if I wanted to have a good conversation at breakfast, I should come and talk to you. I said, well, come over, and that was fine. And then Joe Phillips was part of there already, down the hall a bit. And then there were the three of us. And then Mike came, and I said to Cliff and Joe, I would like to invite him. And I think it'd be nice. So I went over there and I said, would you like to join us? And Mike said, yes, yeah, that'd be very nice. So he came and joined us. And that was fine. And then a few months later or whatever, Irene came. And Irene sat at a table, and I said, okay, Mike, I brought you here. Now it's your turn to bring her over. So Mike went over there, and she came and joined us. So that made the 5 people that were there. We had a wonderful time. And once a week on Thursdays at 4:30, we would meet downstairs, meet up in the roof. Somebody would take a time, bring a bottle of wine, and everybody brought their own glass.
Well, this is during COVID, right?
Oh, that was before, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So that was fine. We had a very nice time, and people would be sitting up in the roof, and people would see us with a glass of wine, and it was like, what about me? Hello. Because it was just a group. And then when we had COVID, we used to come here. We were not supposed to, but we did it. And that was it. And it was fun. And we still do it. 2 of them have died. So Mike, Irene, and I, we do it every Thursday afternoon, about 4:30. Good times.
So it was scary initially to move here and start something new, but you're happy with it, right? It turned out okay.
And I think my friends like my wine. But they also have offered to bring wine. Irene, my birthday party they had downstairs.
Yeah.
Irene brought all that wine.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she got from somebody who died, and then she got the wine. I said, couldn't be better. And that was a nice party.
It was very nice. Were you here for that?
For the downstairs,
Yeah.
that was super sweet. And people who went up and spoke and the poem, and that was very, very nice to see.
It was supposedly the biggest turnout they've had here.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere you go, people gather. So it's you say you're introverted, and it's funny to think that you would be nervous about those things when everyone loves you.
One time when I was in LA, when I went to Europe with the 3 nuns, in the conversation, I said, I'm an introvert. Who then said, no, you're not. And I said, yes. And Marie and Alexa, they said, you're not. So I said, well, I know I am. And so Ruth Ann talked to Sister Margaret Mary or something. And she was a doctorate, with a doctorate of psychiatry or whatever. So she gave me a test. And I came back, and Ruth Ann said, well, we got back on the test. And I said, well, you are an introvert. I tell you so. So that made it difficult for me to do what I had to do, But then, and I don't have to have a lot of friends. That's just fine.
But you've always been inclusive, and you've always, I guess, been a person that I've known that gets people to come together, right? Like you plan and organize that people will meet up and that there will be certain parties.
But I want the family to be together.
So you're willing to go beyond your natural introvert.
I won't invite anybody anymore.
Yeah. And why is that important to you, to bring everybody together?
Because I love the family. And I want you to stay friends. When I go and I die and you get a world where I don't want to have you say, well, goodbye, I'm on my way. But they should be together.
Kind of depends on the will, though, doesn't it?
We don't talk about the will. Where is the will? Who has the will? I think Rocky has a copy of the will. I may have one in my desk.
Did Mama have a sense of humor?
No, my dad did.
Your brothers are so jokesters. They were so
goofy.
My uncles, yeah.
Not really. Dad he liked a funny joke. I was going to say something.
Uncle Jimmy, Uncle Johnny.
Oh, I went to Europe my second time after your dad died. And the following year, I went to Europe because 3 nuns I knew wanted to go. And I said, I'll go in 1977, but I cannot go the year your dad died.
Which
anyway,
is 76. Yeah.
We went together, and there were 3 nuns and I. The nuns were not dressed like nuns anymore, but regular. So there would be 2 rooms, and that was the way we went. And we rented a car in Rome. We went to England first, and we were there for a week, I think, or 4. I can't remember, but sometime there. And then we take the boat to Belgium, and we picked up a car. And we drove from there to Germany, and we took turns. One would drive in the morning, and one the afternoon, and the 2 in the back. And those would drive in the morning, next day, and the afternoon. So that worked out very well. my children kept saying, "What are you going to be doing with nuns?" Well, little did they know that I would travel with a carton of cigarettes and a bottle of scotch. And the four of us were smoking, so that was fine. And when we got to Rome, because Ruth Ann was the principal of the school, and talked to one of the other nuns who was a principal of Holy Name or one of the schools in the valley. She said, when you go to Rome, you're going to stay at our school because summertime it's boarding school. It'll be empty and the nuns are expecting you. Well, Marie and Alexis, who were the president of the community, the most important job Marie had, and Ruth was the principal of the school. Ruth's principal, we had beautiful oriental carpet. We had a beautiful porch to look out into the patio and the gardens that they had. And Marie, who was the head of the community, had a room down where the boarders lived. So every day we would have breakfast at the boarding school. And then for lunch, we either would go to Rome and have lunch in Rome or pick up a French bread, cheese, crackers, and some fruit and wine, and then come to the place where we were,
You're
sit
sweet.
down there and have some wine with whatever we ate. And if it was in the evening, we would get a cigarette, we would get the scotch and maybe some cheese and crackers and sit there and then smoke with the window open, a beautiful day, the summertime, and we have a scotch. But the last day we were going to be there, the nun that used to serve us breakfast, we had told her we were leaving that day, but Marie was not feeling well, so we came back to the room and we stayed one more day. Well, there we are with a scotch and cigarette. Marie was feeling much better, and then there's a knock on the door. Wow! Carton of cigarettes, scotch under the bed. Hello! The little nun saw a car and thought she would bring us 4 Coca-Colas so we can drink and be together for the last time. Thank you, sister. I mean, there was cigarette. God. And then she left and we went to see the chapel. We did come back and then she said, you have to go. We said goodbye. We went up to my room and we got under the bed, get that another little bit of scotch, and then we went.
Sneaky.
Sneaky, always.
I remember that. You say, how can you go with 3 nuns? I said, look, I can always come home if I don't want to be there. I can always stay for a day by myself. You know, I could do anything. So the last day we were in Paris, the nuns wanted to go up in them.
Gondola or no?
Well,
What?
one of the, we were in Paris, so it was one of the restaurants in the streets where there were cafes. Let's go and have a last drink. I said, no, I can't do it. I said, well, we'll go then. I said, go ahead. And I was taking a shower, washing my hair, thinking of the trip, and I thought, isn't that funny? There wasn't one day that I felt that I had to get away from them. It was so easy that they were just friends and obviously not nuns, the scotch and the smoking. That it was a wonderful trip. It was a wonderful trip. That's when Bill Phipps died, when I came back.
Well, at least they didn't look like nuns. You know, you weren't traveling with these
No,
three women in habits.
no. They wouldn't, no.
I mean,
Things would be totally different.
yeah.
Even Irene, when she was a nun, Irene was a nun.
Irene
For the first time
Greenland.
this
Mhm.
She used to go with her father. Mother died. Oh, and the father, sweetie, would you be so kind as to go to Alaska with me? I don't like to be alone. Well, Papa, of course, You. So she was traveling also dressed like you. They went to Hawaii. They went to Europe. I mean, she did quite well.
Was travel always something that's important to you?
I think traveling is the best education you can have. You went to Europe when you were in college.
Thanks to you.
Did
Yeah,
you find that made you look at the world in a different way?
definitely.
And the European kids were totally different than you. And even the Eastern kids that were in a group with you were different than you were.
Hmm.
And I think you learned that. Look at them. Oh, they have snow. And look at the things they can do that I can't do. Or they can't do, and the other way around.
Mhm.
And I think it's very good. In Europe, which one of you went and ordered steak for dinner one night and the money that it cost?
I don't remember.
Well, it could have been also one of them other kids.
Sarah, Claire,
Walker's children.
Oh,
Christopher, Stephen.
Maybe one of them, yeah.
So, what kind of? I think a lot of people wonder, and they probably ask you all the time. But what can you give any tips for living to 100? Can you give any advice to us who
Drink
aren't?
red wine and have a martini once in a while. Good way. Oh, I don't know. Come on.
Well, but just okay, maybe not just 100, but
See,
is there any?
My dad would have been 88 when he died. He was months short of it. The only one, my mother was 76. My grandmother would have been 100. She died in November, and she would have been 100 in January.
This was Mama's mother?
Mother, yeah.
Okay.
And that's the longest one that I know of.
So you think it's genetics, or no?
I don't know. I don't believe in this generic thing. You know that, I'm sure. I mean,
Yeah.
I think of Erica being a lot like all of us. And that's not it.
But is there any advice that you can pass on to us who are younger than you, or things that?
About how to live a good life.
Yeah.
You know,
What are your secrets?
I think I have been happy most of my life. I mean, I love people. Most of my life has been around people that I am happy with, that I love. But I think being happy, to be able to laugh, I think laugh is a good deal. It's a good deal.
Do you ever think about how you want people to remember you?
The way they remember me. What they remember about me, that's the way I want them to remember me. Forget my ring.
The good things we remember about you. You want us to keep those always, right? But not the ring.
Oh, okay, thank you. I have a ring with a pearl. The pearl was in another ring that was given to my mother and dad when I graduated from high school. And the ring was, it's a nice sized pearl there. And I used to hit them in the head whenever they did bad things. So the ring was always in my hand like this.
So I know you want to be cremated when you die.
I do.
But let's say you were going to be buried. What would you want your tombstone to say about you?
That reminds me of a joke.
You can tell us a joke, but But no, seriously, I mean, how if it was all summarized on one little
But if it's
tombstone.
going to be cremated, you're not going to put it
No,
in the
we're
ground.
not. It's just, how would you
If I were
encapsulate
if
your
I were
life?
going to be buried in the ground
I
and
mean,
I
you're
had to
not.
have a stone, what to say?
What would you? Yeah. What are we going to say about you?
Isn't that funny? Mother and dad have nothing except a date
Oh, no.
and a name, and I don't see you have to say anything else.
Burned out, fizzled out.
Out with a bang.
Oh dear God!
Hmm.
You know, my dad had a sister who was a teacher in Philadelphia. And when she retired, she went down to Florida and she became sick. And she had
Parkinson's.
Parkinson's. So Dad went to to Miami or whatever in Florida, brought my mother to Ecuador because it was cheaper to have her living with mother and dad in a bedroom downstairs with a full-time nurse than to have her here with nobody. And there were mother and dad and people. So that's what was done. I went there and that took Grace, took Eloise to the family doctor that we had in LA. And so Grace filled out the papers and all. And then in the afternoon, she went to the hospital to have the tests done. And Alice took her. So that night, Grace and Alice talked to each other about it. And Alice says, they had the same date, birth dates. So Grace called Dad and said, Dad, are you a twin with Eloise? And Dad said, yeah. And he said, why didn't you ever tell us? He said, nobody ever asked. That was my dad, So none of us, Dad and Mother, had no twins. But their twins, Lola had twins. So it skips a generation. But I don't know that anybody else has twins.
No, that's the only one of the cousins. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you have all these children and grandchildren and all these friends and family, great grandchildren. What do you hope for all of them?
To work in what makes them happy working with. I want them to marry a good person if they want to get married. And to love each other. That would be it. And by the way, I have Frank's ashes in my bedroom. And I think Sherry Gillespie has my brother Jimmy's ashes. And I thought, and my ashes, and you can go up to Griffith Park in LA, and you have the little path I showed you. All you should have bags of ashes. Throw in the ashes. That's Jimmy, Frank, and I together in Griffith Park. And take a bottle of wine and drink on your way down. And hallelujah. Good way. Good way.
You're going to LA in a few weeks?
When are we going?
The last weekend in June, so the 24th, Friday the 24th.
The 25th.
And what's the occasion?
Lois Safian is having a birthday party for her sister. Her 80th birthday. And I like her very much, and I like Lois. And that would be a good idea to do things that we want to do, that I want to do, and they're going to have put up with me. That's Karen and Cynthia.
What do you want to do while you're there?
Okay, we're gonna go to Lois's party on Saturday. On Monday, we're going to the Museum of
Motion
Movies, the
picture.
new museum
Oh, the new
that
one. Yeah.
just opened. And then we're having lunch with your mother and dad. And Cindy Langendone is going to the museum, and she's having lunch with them. From there, it's a Nephi. What we're doing for lunch on
It's actually
Sunday.
Rocky and Claudia.
On Monday, I would like to go back to Lois on Monday and say hello.
And then see Brian and Jill and Kara and Brittany and those guys Sunday night, probably.
I thought maybe we can spend the night on Highway 1 at where?
Big Sur, Ragged Point.
Ragged Point, yeah.
That's where you want to
A
go.
place.
Hearst
Very
Castle?
Hmm?
Going to Hearst Castle?
It's around there.
Yeah.
No, we're not. Yeah, we do go. He and I
I
have
know.
a little point of contention. He's disobeying their grandmother. But I made him away. You see how hot? I pulled him like that, and he got big, and he did what I wanted him to do.
And
It
you
was-
enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was she insisted that I go to Hearst Castle, and I didn't want to go. I was and I was going up alone and stuff, but it was really nice. And the
And
grandmother's
also,
always
we
with-
had a little conversation
Yeah.
about filling the tank of gasoline before we went into one, because a half a tank may not be, and it just opened one. I doubt that there will be a gasoline place, and I don't push. So,
and I push.
but you did. I did push. He went, 4 miles down the road.
Out
It
of
was
the way.
right there. Yeah.
Yeah, you said turn around and we'll go back to that gas station, and I couldn't get it in my head to turn around. I said going backwards. No.
No wonder we were
But we
going
did
like
it.
this all the way.
It was probably a good idea.
Hmm.
Yeah, it would be really a bummer to run out of gas there.
It probably would have made for a more interesting story.
Yes.
If you survived.
Yeah.
She might have pushed you over.
Over the cliff.
Oops. I kicked him too hard. Come on. Yeah.
Mhm.
What time is it?
10:45.
The people come at 11.
What people?
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
today's Monday.
Oh.
Well, you can say.
You know, I'm going to take him
I got to
to
catch the train.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and I'm going to drive him.
Yeah, but come
I'll
back.
come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Well, I think we better say goodbye. Love you. Give love to your family. Tell Grayson I miss her. And goodbye, Cynthia. Take him to the train station.
One more question. Let's say Nico has children, or Max, or all your great grandchildren have children.
People related to you that you might not meet one day.
50 years later, they see you in this thing. What would you want to tell them about how to live a good life? Or have you already said that?
I did tell you
Yeah, you did. You said,
to get a good wife or mate. I told you to also find a job that makes you happy.
yeah.
Religion wise, I still believe in the Catholic Church. I don't remember my children have been baptized. I know my other children, the Smith children, have been baptized. The grandchildren, I don't remember. There might be one of you, maybe. I think, oh yes, Rocky's children have been baptized. And Cindy's children have been baptized in this Episcopalian church. But I don't remember. Whatever, that's it.
So get a good job, find a spouse, and get baptized.
Be happy.
Wait. Get a spouse that you would like to live with.
Yeah.
Be baptized. Religion is your choice.
Family's important too. Travel's great.
Go mostly to nations whose culture is different than yours. If I had to do it again, I would love to go to Turkey and to Russia again and China. And those are cultures that are totally different from mine. And that would have been very good.
In Africa.
Oh, that was a great trip. That was a great trip.
You two went together, right?
Yeah. In 2007. It was
Or 10.
Well, it was the year that Obama went to Kenya to visit his father's family. And that was the year before he ran for. So that was either 2007 or 2008.
He was.
We were there, and we were staying in a hotel in Kenya. That was an English hotel. And Cynthia and I had gotten there a day or two before the trip started. So we're having dinner in the hotel, and the maitre d', who is a black man, came to say that John, the man that led the tour that we're taking, would like to talk to us in the living room across the way when we finished dinner. And I said to Cynthia, we said, well, we're going to finish the wine. Why don't you ask John to come and join us for a glass of wine? The black man said, John is a black man. We said, so what? I am sure there were people there who never would have sat with a black man. And the black maitre d' knew that, and that was what he said before it would have been embarrassing for John or me to say, we can't sit together. It was the beginning of knowing what the world is like.
Very educational.
Mhm.
Travel.
Again?
Yep.
Somebody there?
I don't think so. Look, it's still 8 minutes to go.
No, Patty may have been here. Open the door. Just.
No, nobody's there.
Oh, come in. Come and sit down.
Are you pulling a prank on us? Hello there. How you doing?
Anyway,